Seattle really was at the forefront of developing reparations for Japanese Americans, and the Japanese American Citizens League did an outstanding job. The impetus came from the student movement again. The issues revolving around relocation and so forth were always being hidden at that particular time. That's why we wanted to create Asian American history classes, and that's what started to spark people's interest. That's what sparked the whole movement towards finding out more of what actually happened to individuals' parents, and the development of actually books and so forth being written on this topic. As students and so forth, we actually started bringing in speakers about this because we wanted to know more. In the history books and so forth, we all heard about an individual named Dr. Gordon Hirabayashi, who was at the University of Washington, and he refused to abide by the rules of that no Asian American can be out by after 7 o'clock at night. And he was an individual that went against that, so he got arrested and thrown in jail and so forth, and spent time in prison because of that. And his movement of getting out and so forth, which coincided with the ending of the war. But we were able to bring him to speak and so forth, but we wanted to be able to, as a student organization, bring it more into the community, because we wanted community people to understand what was going on back then and have a better idea of that. So we started having these seminars and so forth in the community. So we brought Gordon Hirabayashi and so forth. He was a professor in Canada and so forth. We brought him back, and obviously he had more credibility than us and so forth. So we went, we had packed houses at places like the Japanese Methodist Church and so forth, because people wanted to come and hear him and so forth. Of why did he decide to go against the the law at that time, and how he was able to win and so forth. And so he inspired people to know more about this. He inspired community groups, and people like the Japanese American Citizens League took hold of that and saying that Gordon was right at that time. They didn't think he was right then, but then as the student movement brought up the relocations as an issue and so forth, that's what really started people thinking about, we need to do more. Why is it that America has never apologized for it? And is apology all that we want? And so there was a lot of debates going on at that particular time, saying, well, what should we get? So that's when the issue of redress came up and so forth. And after a lot of arguments going back and forth, it came out to $20,000 a person, because it wasn't enough just to get the apology. There had to be some dollars behind it and so forth. So I'm real proud of the fact that there was student movements that brought this issue up, and that JACL, in fact, took it and was able to run with it. And then some key legislation came through with an individual called Congressman Mike Lowry, who carried it and so forth. And in particular, his staff person was Ruth Ann Kurose, who was a member of the Asian Student Coalition at that time, was with us during the early demonstrations and so forth, and understood this issue very, very well, because she went to work for Mike Lowry and helped carry some of this with his colleagues and so forth, to be able to get reparations and so forth. In fact, I happened to be in D.C. for a different reason, and he was busy on the phone, because I went in to see Ruth Ann, actually, and he was busy on the phones trying to get the votes and so forth. But Mike Lowry really can be thanked for that, as well as Ruth Ann Kurose and JACL. But clearly, Seattle led the way for reparations, and the whole redress movement was from here.